Hello, today I'll be showcasing this Superlight 2-speed heavily modified Brompton. And I think this will be a good video to see what options there are for like good budget or value upgrades to lighten the weight of a Brompton to make it easier to carry.
A bit about the history of the bike. I bought it off Facebook Marketplace. It was listed for £550. I'm pretty sure it wasn't stolen based on my interaction with the person. I brought some tools and a pump to tune it up, and it did get me home. It also came with a titanium seat post, which I sold for £40, bringing the total cost of the bike to £510. Obviously, not everyone is going to find a Superlight Brompton at this price, but this list of upgrades will still help you upgrade your existing Brompton without spending a lot on a new bike. If you buy a secondhand C-Line, you can easily get a P-Line weight Brompton for the price of a new C-Line.
It was a good platform to start with the titanium front fork and triangle. So when I first got it, it was about 10 kilograms with the parts that were on it. I'll have all the part lists on the spreadsheet. It'll also show the part weight, or the weight saved from replacing it, and then I also put the price, and you can kind of see the grams per pound saved or pounds per gram saved, and you can see like what upgrades are the best value in terms of weight savings. The best upgrades I put on the list, you can save approximately 1.6 kilograms, and it'll cost about 600 pounds. 600 pounds sounds like a lot, but when you look at the price difference between a C-Line and a P-Line, it's like 1,000 pounds, and you're only saving like 1.5 kilograms. And keep in mind, all these upgrades can be done on the P-Line as well. Obviously, if you're doing all these upgrades all at once, 600 pounds is a lot, but you can also replace things a bit at a time. And yeah, the commute for this is like relatively flat. It's only about 3.5 kilometers. And she doesn't really care about the aesthetics of the bike at all. The priority was to reduce the weight so that was easier to carry.
When you're dealing with lightweight parts, the question that always arises is whether the parts are strong enough. We've only tested this bike with a loaded rider of 85 kilograms or so. This includes clothes, gear, backpack, etc. If you weigh closer to the Brompton weight limit of 110 kilograms, you might be better off staying with more stock parts that are engineered with those limits in mind.
And a lot of these parts I got from AliExpress. Again, I guess it's somewhat controversial, I don't know, is it? AliExpress, you're just cutting out a middleman, and it's like the same parts.
Okay, so just starting at the rear here, these are 3D printed wheels that I made, and they're approximately like 25 grams each TPU tire and the hard plastic interior, so it has some compliance, I guess, in the roll. I tried a lot of wheels, and the main thing that annoyed me was like those thinner Light Pro wheels, like the tires would wear out or fall off, and then you would have to like buy a new pair of wheels. Since I made these myself, the TPU tires are just easily replaceable, same with the bearings and all that. And this is a generic Q rack. I always love these actually, since they're so cheap. They're light, I think at only 100 something grams. And then sometimes they're a bit, you have to bend them a bit to fit, but it's fine, honestly. The brakes are Isofix brakes. I've tried quite a few now, and honestly, the regular Brompton brakes are probably the best for braking power. These Isofix ones are a bit lighter. Yeah, I think I just put them on because the other ones are a bit old and crusty. There's the suspension block. This again is a 3D printed part that I made. It's lighter and it's a bit firmer. There's also the carbon fiber fenders. They're quite pricey. They're around 70 pounds. I'm not sure if it's worth it. There's probably lighter weight options out there, but they do look nice. I just have it attached one point on the Q rack there, and then one point right here at the brakes, because you really don't need the all the fancy steel stays and all that, which just add weight when you have the rack, since the fender isn't bearing any weight. I put this little leather flap here, which looks a bit nasty, but it works, I guess. I did use TPU tubes, so that saves a lot of weight, probably the best value. I'm probably gonna jinx this, but she hasn't had a puncture in like, I swear, like a year. So it's kind of impressive. Actually, one thing I think actually helps is like this fender kind of like rubs onto the tire. And you know, the old bikes used to have those things that rub on the tire to get rid of road grit so that the glass doesn't embed deeper. I think this might serve that same function. So this is the saddle she uses. It's a cheap AliExpress carbon with a bit of foam on top. This seat post is also carbon Light Pro saddle, I believe. This mounting mechanism isn't actually designed for the oval carbon rails, but I just swapped it out for a longer bolt so that it has enough room to clamp. But honestly, probably not recommended.
Since this specific seat post doesn't fit the oval rails, I actually recommend this Light Pro one with this style of clamp.
There is a third-party seat clamp. Again, there's a lot of options here. This probably isn't the lightest. Pretty robust. Some of the other ones, they're a bit harder to push ergonomically. And this has a nice big contact patch for the rotation part, so it probably will last a lot longer than some others. For the pedals, I use these Isofix ones. They're so light and they're serviceable. Like, I've had a bearing go out on one and I just replaced it very easily.
The other good thing about these pedals that make them lighter than alternatives is that only one side has the quick release mechanism.
Next up, bottom bracket. So this is just our 68 width Shimano Holotech 24 millimeter axle diameter. These are Giro carbon cranks. These ones fit almost, pretty much perfectly, especially for a 2-speed chain line. It's a bit expensive, but the weight savings between the bottom bracket and the cranks, I think, makes it worth it.
Note that it also opens up a ton of options for different chain rings. You can go under 39 tooth or do dual chain rings, and you aren't limited to Brompton specific ones, designed by companies like H&H, which charge a lot more.
These carbon handlebars are a bit flexy, so it's not something I really recommend, but for her, since it's such an upright position, she's not putting much weight on it. Light Pro brake levers. These are quite nice. They're not the lightest, but they are a bit better made than some of the lighter ones that I use. Spur cycle bell. It's very, very loud. And then, it just uses the old rabbit ear shifters. For a 2-speed, it's actually quite simple. This bell sucks. I have my 3D printed grips. They are, they fit her hand, and then it's still quite convenient. They can be longer, but this was just a prototype, and then it works. And this is the titanium stem. It's quite nice. Haven't had any issues. Welds are very good. It does use a slightly different pin system than the Brompton one. If you look under here, this uses a set screw to hold this. Let's try this again. Okay, so this uses set screw to hold this pin in, and when it comes from the factory, you should really take out these set screws and put in some blue Loctite, because they don't come Loctite, and if that slides out and you don't notice while riding, this pin could eventually shake out. Let's see what else. The headset. I just use the cheap generic headsets, honestly. They have sealed bearings. I mean, they're light, no fancy Chris King stuff here. And they spin smoothly and they work. And again, the titanium forks and triangles are standard Brompton factory ones because this came as a Superlight.
If you're upgrading from a C-line with all steel frame, you can get third-party titanium fork and triangle for about 500 pounds. Again, that just shows how good of a deal this bike was when I got it for 510 pounds.
The front wheel is a Silver Rock. You're saving 169 grams off the old wheels, and it is fewer spokes. For smaller wheels, I think the number of spokes on the standard Brompton one is a bit overkill. And again, if you're a lighter rider, you won't notice anything. It stays true. Again, the fender mount. I need to redo this probably, because mine just broke on my bike. This is just mounted at one single point, so I'll need to change that out for a stronger bracket that maybe I'll try to make on my own. Let me show you the interior of the welds on this stem. Oh yeah, the hinge clamp is just the leftover from one of my other parts, so nothing super fancy. A lot of options out there. Okay, so yeah, just a close-up look, I guess, on some of these welds. Like, this is quite clean here. There's like an interface here. Some third-party stems, there was a complaint where this would bottom out and then it wouldn't clamp properly, so you get a clicking. But you've got a very nice gap here, and that allows the clamp to actually clamp fully across the stem. And so yeah, I mean, that's the bike build essentially.
I guess just going over the spreadsheet while I have this in front of me. Some of the best weight saving parts were like the saddle, but again, it's very dependent on what you think is comfortable. Since these are so cheap, this was 24 pounds. Like, it's worth trying just to see. Like, you can save 135 grams off the standard Brompton one, I think it was. Let's see what else. The titanium axle pedal. So the Isofix pedals, you save 200 grams. If you're coming from the P line, it'll be a bit less of a weight saving. The Ride Now inner tubes, if you swap both of them, it's 120 grams weight saving, and that's a 10-pound upgrade. The carbon seat post, 100 gram weight saving. The Q rack, if you're changing from a standard Brompton rack, you would be saving a lot of weight. But this one, it was an addition, so I didn't really calculate weight saving. But that's an option. If you don't carry stuff on your rack often, then honestly the Q rack is such a great addition for rolling. The front wheel again was 170 gram weight savings, and it was only 84 pounds for the wheel, which is honestly like very, very good value in my opinion. The titanium stem saves 327 grams, but it is a 270 pound upgrade. Just going over the numbers again, the weight before everything, as pictured here, was around 10 kilograms. And there was 1.4 kilograms saved approximately. And keep in mind, some of these parts were adding weight. So for example, the bike didn't have a rack before, I added a rack. So essentially with the bike costs at 510 pounds and the part costs at 889 pounds, 8.5 kilogram bike for 1,400 pounds. I think the P line now is 10 kilograms and 2,500 pounds. So like it's still a good value. It's a lot for a bike still, but I think it is a good value. And as I said at the beginning, like these upgrades don't have to be done all at once.
The items I highlighted in yellow here are the ones that I recommend to quickly reduce the weight of your Brompton. And the spreadsheet will have a link to all the items, and you can take a look at the exact weight savings and value of each item.
So the recommended weight saving parts was costing 600 pounds and it saved 1.6 kilograms. You probably save a bit less weight on the P line because some of the P line parts, like the pedals, are a bit lighter, and the saddle. So maybe you're saving like 1.4 kilograms, spending 600 pounds on top of a P line. And that's a lot. That would bring a P line 10 kg down to like 8.6. Let me see if I can find the luggage scale to weigh this. I have my crappy luggage scale, which tends to read from what it's shown before around 100 grams lower than what it actually is. Zeroed. 8.46 plus around 120 grams, I think, so 8.58. So 8.58 kilograms. That's pretty good for a 1,400 pound Brompton. So, I mean, the cheap upgrades are out there. I don't think you need to go super fancy. And yeah, I just hope that this little video helps you get some ideas on what parts are out there to make your Brompton a bit lighter. Thanks for watching.